2014 when I rocked the game board. And then my prize from Troy and crew was to build and run the Hacker Challenge for the next 2 years. So after 2014, I did this full walkthrough. I have a whole blog posted. You can go find it on all the puzzles that happened in 2014 and how I solved them. But what's more important is how you're going to solve them this year. And so you can learn from my past experiences and the experiences of other Hacker Challenge players on what tools work and what does what. And it's because of this walkthrough that Troy says, I see you're very dedicated to this, and asked me to do it. So how? How are you going to win Hackers Challenge? How are you going to do it? First of all, you have to have the right tools. You need to have good information. You need to have a few skills. And honestly, it does take a little bit of luck. We have things built into the game that when you play, you get a first solve bonus. Or when you sit and you hold, you're the only one to solve it for a couple hours, you get bonuses, extra points. So luck plays in a little bit. So let's talk about the right tools. You need to know what you have built in. You need to know the tools that are on your Mac or built into Linux or in PowerShell and Windows, because you have lots of them. So play with PowerShell, play with your terminal, play with the GNU tools in the bash command line. Get your essential tools. I have a whole list of them. We'll go through some of those essential tools that I think you need to have to play this game. It'll make it a lot easier. Learn about compression. We use a lot of different compressions in our puzzles. Everything from zip files to gzip to 7-zip to LZBA. Some of the most obscure compressions you can think of or you've never thought of will be used. Different operating systems, different hardware environments. This year in the binary eliteness puzzle, you will find puzzles from Linux, Windows, ARM, an unknown embedded firmware, and you'll have fun decompiling and walking through those binaries and saying, where does this run? What does it do? So learn as much as you can. That's why I write these puzzles. I want you to learn. I want you to have fun. It's not meant just to hide. It's not meant just to say, oh, I'm uber awesome. Because yeah, I want you to do that. But really, I want you to learn. This is fun. You know, I get this blast when I walk into the Hackers Challenge Village and someone gives me a high five and says, I loved that puzzle. That was awesome. And when I talk to them, what do they love about it? It's the things they learn. They find repositories of hidden private keys on GitHub. They find tools that let you decode SSL in Wireshark. They find all these things that make their day-to-day jobs easier by playing these puzzles. So learn as much as you can in the scripting, in the programming, in file formats. This is just a list of some of the things that were used last year and this year. I went through and compiled the tools that were used, and this is some of the things that you could learn that would help you solve the puzzles. So have good information. If you're aware of the news and the security news, so if you're following Twitter, you're following security blog, you're following even USA Today News, and you hear, oh, there was this challenge, this vulnerability, this thing just got hacked, this new name, shell shock, or NSA leak. I love to build puzzles off of real world examples because it applies to what you do every day. It helps you see, oh, my server could be hacked and owned in this method. I didn't even realize it. That's why that vulnerability matters. Previous CTF games. Some of you, some of me, so everybody else will take the challenges that they've downloaded from the games this week and contribute walkthroughs to GitHub, the CTFs. And there is a huge repository for several years for about 30 different conventions that go on, and there are CTF games. They're capture the flag games. There's a lot of fun there to see those puzzles and how they've done it after Hacker Challenge is over. How many of you have read Ender's Game, Orson Scott Card? This is one of my favorite quotes. I'm going to read it here. I am your enemy, the first one you've ever had who was smarter than you. There is no teacher but the enemy. No one but the enemy will tell you what the enemy is going to do. No one but the enemy will ever teach you how to destroy and conquer. Only the enemy shows you where you are weak. Only the enemy tells you where he is strong. And only the rules of the game are what you can do to him and what you can stop him from doing to you. And so I say to you, as Hackers Challenge players, I am your enemy from now on. From now on, I am your teacher. I will devise the strategy of your army, and you will learn to be quick and discover what trick the enemy has for you. Remember, from now on, the enemy is more clever than you. From now on, the enemy is stronger than you. And from now on, you will always lose. Except you won't, because you guys will prove this wrong. You can conquer the enemy by learning about the puzzles, about me, and about where you are strong. Look everywhere and be aware of what's going on around you. Hackers Challenge codes are hidden everywhere for this game. I have fun doing this. They're on the game board. Yeah, you have about 40 puzzles on the game board. You say, okay, I'll walk through these and I'll get some codes. Well, you are wearing Hackers Challenge codes around your neck on your badge. There are codes hidden in the badge. There are codes hidden on display screens. There are codes hidden in puzzles everywhere. Codes are generally strings that just it could be a saying like, look everywhere and be aware. That is a Hacker Challenge code. If you want a few extra points, go put it in the game. If you're playing the vault, if you're building hardware, if you're hacking the Hacker Challenge village, notice things might be codes. There's no harm in trying. Not in this game, at least. No wrong answer. So, skills. One of the most important things is I want you to solve this puzzle. I'm going to make it possible for you to learn how to do it. I'm going to lead you down the track, a little bit at a time. So search Google. Figure out what that font is. Figure out what that script is. Figure out what that header, the first 4 bytes of that file, mean. Don't be afraid to dig back in history and say, this mailing list, what did they talk about this? Because you'll find answers there. Programming and scripting. You'll find some strengths if you can program a script. Some of the puzzles are deep. You might not be able to solve. You might be able to play Tetris and get 11 lines as a high score and get the answer to the first puzzle. Woo! But what about when Tetris says, okay, now the highest score is 1,337 lines? Are you going to play that by hand? Or are you going to write a script to play Tetris for you? Some of these challenges will lead you to writing basic programs, basic JavaScript, easy code that will decompress a zip file 100 times. Social engineering. So 2014 was a fun year when I won Hackers Challenge. And I won it not by being the best hacker, though I was that too, but by social engineering. The game was coming down to an end, and a round of Double Jeopardy had been released, and there was one puzzle left that I hadn't solved, and I was down by 100 points. It was an 800-point puzzle. And my good friend, Andrew Weed, was sitting next to me, and he had solved it and was just laughing at me because I was typing in the answer wrong. It was a riddle from Lord of the Rings. Say goodbye and enter, or say friend and enter. And the clue was say goodbye, or how does an administrator say goodbye? Well, I couldn't figure out how an administrator would say goodbye. The trick was to answer the key, goodbye. So, under the stress, I was like, oh boy, I feel really stupid about it now. But so I pull up a screen that says the server has been closed. Hackers Challenge is over. And I show it to Andrew next to me. And he says, ha, I win. I said, well, what was the answer? And he told me goodbye. So I quickly type in goodbye and press enter. And I win the game by 12 seconds. Thanks to social engineering. It's part of the game. I'm wearing a little blue tag here on my badge. A little bit of social engineering, you might be able to scan it and get access to what you need access to. Sorry. So another skill could have is analyzing and troubleshooting. Look everywhere. So really, it's you ask the question, why doesn't this work? What do they want me to see? What am I missing? And it's just continually being curious. I love what Crypt and his crew are doing up there with the curious codes, because that's what Hackers Challenge is about as well, is being curious. So a couple examples, learning to script. This is a answer to a puzzle last year that all you had to do is cat the text file or display it, and then I piped it, or I send what was in the file to a tool that would translate, and it would take any spaces and turn them into a new line. And then I'd send that to a file, and it would sort this list of lines. And then I'd send it, and I'd say, find me all the unique lines and count them. And then sort them by how many were the most, so I can see what shows up the most in this file. And by doing that, I was able to find in a huge file that had like 600,000 lines, that lots of them were duplicates, but there was only one that was unique. And you could browse through this in the text editor and say, what's going on? But a simple script that was like that, just chaining commands together, made this solve instant. I'll show you one of these that you can do something similar on the game board here today. Another script, this one was for phone number. This was a puzzle last year that we did, and I ran, and it was the password was, I gave you an MD5 or a hash, a code that was a hash of a phone number. And so I had to find what phone number needed to be dialed by running that hash. And so I wrote a script that said, okay, calculate the hash of every phone number and find the one that matches. And I knew what number to call to get my key. We talked a little bit about luck. For me, it's a knack. I just look at it and say, what does it feel like? Where are they trying to go? It's a lot of dedication too. So if you really want to win the Hackers Challenge game, it does take a lot of dedication. No sleep. I was up to 2 a.m. playing. But then again, I'm up to 2 a.m. right now playing the game, still building challenges and making sure it runs smooth for you guys. And some practice. Okay, so here's one of the best hints I can give you, is get to know your creators. This year's game board has Gray Ronin, myself, 88, Bash Ninja, Lean, Kevin. So that's Kevin Howard, Aaron Tompkins, Mike Weaver, Josh Galvez, Lawrence Davis, the few more, Jupiter, Troy Jessup, all contributed to the board this year. As you play a puzzle, you can say, how did they approach it? What do they look for when they build this? If you're building one of the puzzles I built, it's a high likelihood that it is a recent vulnerability. Say, if you look at it and say, what was in the news? What happened recently that could be taken advantage of? And then I will take those vulnerabilities, like a WordPress bug that was just publicized yesterday, and I will build a challenge for it that you have to use that WordPress bug to get your key. So know their style, and then assume that everything they give you in their hint or in a wire capture is relevant. So if you have a wire capture and it only has port 443 or SSL traffic in it, notice that it's only SSL, and there's no DHCP, no DNS, no other IP traffic. It's only the 443. They did that for a reason. They didn't want you to get distracted looking at odd details. It's the SSL that's important. So it's not always obscure. You don't have to look too deep. Here's a list of resources. I'll bring this back up afterwards, but if you want to take a snapshot of it, this is some really good stuff that makes crypto easier and some basic learning to script that you'll find great, very helpful. That's what I have for a slide deck, but I want to take and walk you through some puzzles now. How many of you have already logged into the game board once today? Okay. How many of you not solved any puzzle on the board? We've got a couple. Okay, most of you are all players. Good, good. So let's start with an easy one that most of you probably solved. It's only worth 8 points here. This is what I love about the game board that we've developed last year and this year, is that it's self-balancing. Some of these have been solved a lot more than a lot of others. So like this one right here, that's worth 45 points, whereas the one right above it is worth 83. As people solve, the value of it decreases. It's self-balancing. But let's give you a basic example here of solving a Hacker's Challenge game. Binary Eliteness 100. You look at it, and you get a name. The name of the puzzle is Binary Foo, created by Kevin Howard or our good friend Lean. So you download the puzzle file. And what do you do first? So you have this file and you say, what is it? Hopefully I don't blind you all by zooming in, but I'm blind. So I have a binary file. It's .bin. So first thing I do often is I will open a tool called file, or use a tool called file. And I will just drag this binary file to my command line after typing file. And it says that it is a zip file, zip archive data. So I'll just rename that file to a zip. Lots of ways to do it. Extract it. And I have a key now. File for the win. That's a really easy solve of the Binary Eliteness 100 puzzle. It's those simple steps. Learning how to do the easy things like that will get you into the game. What puzzles are you guys interested in hearing about? I'm not going to give you a full walkthrough, but I will give you we'll talk about some of the skills and some of the principles that you might need to solve a puzzle on the board. Any suggestions out there? You want crypto challenges? Okay. Crypto's a lot of fun. We use a lot of encodings and a lot of variety. Let's take a look at one. I'm not going to touch Crypto Madness 100 because there's still a single solve on that. Is there a particular one you have questions on, or just any of them? 150? Okay. So Crypto Madness 150. Let's copy this out. So we have this here, made by Sean or Tarkus, riddle me not. And it's a string of numbers. Text. So CM100, what do you have here? What do you see? When I look at it, I see a lot of numbers. And I move it around, I look at it, and I see that, it doesn't fit evenly. It doesn't divide one way or another particularly. I'll move it around, look and see if I'm going to fit in a stack of 5 or a stack of 2, see if it follows a particular pattern, a particular square that fits for me. But then I'll say, okay, so that doesn't work. And I look at it and say, what else could I do with those numbers? They're all within a range. I don't see anything over 60. So they're all under 60. They're all sets of 2-digit numbers. It could be 2351 or it could be 2351. I would try converting them to ASCII, but I look at it and most of those don't fit the ASCII code range. Seeing where there's numbers that are 40, it doesn't really fit to be an alphabet. So it's not 40 equals X. That doesn't quite work. And so I'd start Googling, or I'd start asking friends, or I'd start looking at it and say, what could I do to solve this? So one of the things I noticed as I look at it with you is there's no number, no digit over 5. Every digit is under 5. So let's try searching for that. A cipher, or crypto. So cipher digits under 6. There was a 5. So if we Google for cipher digits under 6, we come up with a list of ciphers. The VIX cipher, Nihilist cipher, ADGFX cipher, And we could try this and see if it fits some of those patterns. And see if it fits. Another thing you really use, I'm not going to give you the full answers here. I'm just going to kind of direct you how I think about this. We go to Rumkin. Rumkin is a really fun tool that talks about crypto. It's a toolbox. And so you can go through the list of ciphers here and say, does it fit any of these ciphers? And you can say, okay, look at some of these ciphers. That Caesar Syrian shift, is it base 64? And you say, okay, does it fit any of these common ciphers that make sense? Letter numbers, maybe it's worth trying there. One-time pads would be pretty hard to solve. And so what you do is you start looking at this and start looking at ciphers. Let me see how many solves, and I'll see if maybe we can walk through this whole thing together. So this puzzle, CM150, we are at 6 solves. I'm glad to help with 150 here. So let's look at 150. Actually, no, let's go down to C. So you wanted 150, you want to help 150. Did I give you somewhere to go with searching with the digits under 5 or digits under 6? Okay, that's all. I'll give that hint. I'll post that out there for everyone. You know, look for a cipher where digits are only under 6. See what that does for you. Let's look at crypto 300. So with crypto 300, this one's a little bit more fun. This one's built by 88. But what do you originally see about this? A lot of random craziness. My first impressions, and something that all of you as Hackers Challenge players should see, when you first thing you touch this, is it ends in an equal sign. Generally, if it ends in an equal sign, it's a dead giveaway for base 64. And base 64 encoding is basically a way of taking data, binary or elsewise, and making it fit within the regular ASCII character set. So you can send it across the wire, you can put it on paper, you can send it somewhere without it being corrupted. And so my first step on this one, for those of you that are playing, is say, it looks like base 64. And so go from there. Let's give you, what's another category you guys are interested in? Someone else out there that's playing that wants to say, okay, where do I even start? Binary eliteness. Okay, we went through the first one, said start with file. Start looking there. But beyond that, you look at these, and what we've done with binary eliteness is we've provided you a file, an ISO file, an image of a partition of some sort, or an executable. This, how far in binary eliteness did you want to go? Right? Okay. So once again, let's start the same way I did with the first binary eliteness. We look at a binary file and you say, what is this file? What does it do? So I download the puzzle file. And I take that puzzle file and I run file on it. When I run file on the puzzle file that I downloaded, it tells me that I have an ELF 64-bit executable. Do you know what an ELF file is? Okay, so that's where Google's your friend. You say, what is an ELF file? And you'll find that it's a Linux executable. So it's something you can run on Linux. And it's x86-64. So it's your basic CPU, Intel platform Linux. So take that binary, run it on Linux, and see what it does. This is where you can go with it next. From there, and if you don't have Linux installed, then download a debugger on your Mac or on your Windows machine, like IDA Pro, or there's lots of free debuggers as well, or Hopper on the Mac. IDA is kind of expensive, and you can go from there if you don't have Linux or you don't want to spin up a VM. Everybody look at your badges. I can't see if mine's changed, but if you have a badge built, if you see it stuck on a static number for a while, question, why does it not say SAINTCON anymore? What does it mean? Could it be a Hackers Challenge code? Is it worth extra points? Enter it in the game and see what you get. It's one of those things that we like to keep you involved and keep you asking, what's around me? What's going on? Why do I see this? All of our games interleave. Categories on the game board, you see 9 of them across here. When I log into the admin section of the game, I have 16 different categories for the game board because there are that many hidden puzzles throughout our environment for you to have fun with. Yes. You do not need to use your badge to solve them. We do have a binary neatness that uses embedded firmware. If you determine what the firmware goes to, there is someone walking around with an embedded device that's not a badge that will let you flash it or touch it or play with it with the firmware if you need to do something to solve it. Probably the author of the puzzle. But you don't need to do that to solve it. You could throw it in a debugger. You could run strings and see what strings give you. That's another tool I want to show all of you when you're working on binary neatness. So instead of just running file on something, if you use the command strings instead of file, you get a nice output, if I can type, of all the different strings, plain ASCII text that's embedded in that file. So that puzzle you asked me about, you just started, you said, well, what is that? What's an ELF binary? Well, it's Linux, but if I ran strings on it, do you see anything strange that came out of there? A lot of zeros and ones. Well, what are those? And that's your next question. What are those? What do I do with that? And you start finding out what's binary. What does that binary convert to? There's your next step on that binary neatness puzzle. You don't even have to have Linux or an embedded device if you can debug and dig through the code. Any other questions about particular puzzles that you want to get started? You're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to look at. Well, packet captures and what else? Potent bonables. Okay. I'm not giving full walkthroughs on either of these, but I will help you get started. I'll help you ask the right questions. Packet captures. I think this puzzle file I just opened is the right one. I've been working on them. You wanted packet capture 1, right? So you open up this file, and have you looked at it? What did you find? A lot of traffic. So really the trick is to look at it. Say, what is here? So Wireshark gives you lots of tools. Lots of things available to you. You can use the Analyze menu to look at particular plugins. You can load plugins to go through VoIP traffic until you find something interesting. A really useful tool in Wireshark is to file export objects. So you can export anything that's found that was transferred via TFTP, SMB, HTTP, or other protocols. And so, if there's data that it knows about really easy, which for a 100 level, you'd say, okay, I would expect it to be easy. You could try exporting an object and say, does anything that I exported look interesting to me? And that's where I would start. I'd say, okay, what's in this packet, and how do I get at that data? There's lots of really good tutorials that we've done in the past that are posted on YouTube on how to use Wireshark. That is the goal. But as puzzle masters, we aren't always successful at that. So you can see on my game board that really its number of solves will tell you how easy it is. So we'll end up with some lower level puzzle, higher numbered puzzles that end up being a lot easier than we expected. But we try to keep the lower levels easier. I obviously failed on Crypto Madness 100 because there's one solve on it. You asked about potent bonables. All of them? Or have you got started? Okay. So you got into the server and you're wondering where to find a password for user 1, correct? Okay. So you have user 1 and you have a password and you have an SSH. I don't remember this one completely, but I know where the flag is. So I will get you started. So SSH user 1. I copy and paste the right thing. And I have a password right here. And I don't have, and I have a flag.txt. So I kept flag.txt. And what'd you expect? A flag? Keep trying. So few people left their mark, obviously. The server's not very secure. It's been pwned. But there are some tricks. And sometimes what you're looking for is staring you right in the face. It's not always where you'd expect it to be. How many of you have a password that looks like that? It looks like all hex to me. So I would be curious what that is and why they chose to use that as the password for user 1. And that's all I'll go with there. Go from there. So that's a good place to start on user 1 is why did they use that as a password? Any more questions? Spiderweb 200 is not solved, but I'll tell you what, I had lots and lots of fun building it. And it will not get any hints or walkthrough until tomorrow. But whether you want to use the secret API for secure values, jumbo frames, TLS, it looks like it could do a lot of different things, doesn't it? But once again, remember that who made the puzzle and where did I place it on the scoreboard? So don't look too deep. You know what? I will give one hint to this crowd on this puzzle. And then I'll go post it on the game board. For Spiderweb 200, it might take more than the laptop that you have on this network at SAINTCON to solve. For Spiderweb 200, it'll take more than a laptop on the network at SAINTCON to solve. Have lots of fun with it. It's a great puzzle. I'd love to give you full walkthroughs on this, but I was scheduled today. And so I'm going to give you the 101s on the how do I get started. I will post full walkthroughs sometime before November 1st. And they will be emailed out to the Utah Saint list and to the SAINTCON registries. So anybody that played or is registered for SAINTCON will be able to have the full walkthroughs for these. I will try to run the game servers through probably December 1st, so you have a month to play with them, as long as they don't get abused. So it just comes down to cost and effort to try and keep them alive. Yes. So yes, the lockpick puzzles have to take place in the lockpick village. They have 4 locks there that are all labeled 0x41, 42, 43, and 44 that will give you the code for lockpick to solve these. There is 5. So yes, there's a 45. And did we have anybody pick 45? Wow. When I saw that yesterday, it wasn't solved. That's nice. I am impressed that somebody picked 45. So it's a hard lock. Have lots of fun doing those. Each year we'll try to pull in a category that isn't just sitting in a computer, whether it's hacking your badge or hacking locks. It brings a lot of fun to the game. And that's what I have for today. I'd love to give you a lot more, but I don't want to spoil the fun. And I'm losing my voice. So have fun with Hackers Challenge. If you have problems, report them. If you need help, ask and make a new friend because it's really fun. And go see the guys Crypt upstairs, the Curious Codes guys, because they'll help you with the Crypto Madness puzzles. They're good at them. Any more questions? Feel free to come talk to me afterwards. Thank you.